Hey pals, welcome back. Today I thought that we would get some short books in to kind of kickstart the GoodReads goal so that instead of having to read a bunch of short books at the end of the year, I've read a bunch of short books at the beginning of the year to put me ahead of my reading goal for 2025. Let's jump into it. Happy January 2nd. We're starting off with yesterday I picked up I Who Have Never Known Men. I'll put a better picture up by Jacqueline Hartman. So this one is about a bunch of women who are supposedly held underground captive, and I'm assuming that one of them has like been there her whole life and has never met a man before. That's all I know. I'm going into this blind. It's a short book. Kindle says it's going to take me 4 hours to read, which in hindsight, I guess is not that short, but we're doing it. Okay, well, it's definitely been more than 4 hours. This is taking me like a large majority of the day. It's like 3 p.m. now. But I think that the one thing that made this like take such a long time for me is that it wasn't like chunked up into chapters. There were no chapters at all, which kind of threw me for a loop. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I realized, it's like, wait, what? Either way, I'm really frustrated with like lack of answers that are in this book, but sometimes that's how life is. And I ended up giving this 4 stars. I think it's like such a pensive book. Like it just really makes you think. I cannot stop wondering. I have so many questions. Girl, where are the answers? Can we get a part 2 with some answers? Like honestly, I don't even need a part 2. Just give me an answer key. That's it. Anyways, I think the next book that I will pick up is called Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. And this book, I actually have no idea what this book is about, but I've just heard a lot of people talking about it. So I'm going to load it up on this bad boy. We're going to get started. So I've finished Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. And this was basically about these like 5 people who have these random different jobs that are like on the graveyard shift, aka overnight. And they tend to meet at this like cemetery for a smoke break. And then they discover this like open grave there that isn't supposed to be there. And it kind of leads them down this like rabbit hole of trying to like figure out why the grave is open, like dug up, or like what's going on there. Each of them has like these like secrets that they are trying to uncover. I would say that this book was like a 3.5 stars for me. I wanted to give it 4 stars because I was like really enjoying it. But then when the book was over, I kind of like Googled it and was like, whoa, like most of this book just went right over my head. And I just like didn't catch a lot of things. I don't know if it's because it was so short that I read it so fast and I just wasn't like paying enough attention, but that is not a good sign if I'm not paying attention while I'm reading something, because it means that I'm not that invested. So after some thought, I decided it's maybe like closer to a 3.5 stars. It was pretty interesting. It was pretty quick. I would recommend this for people who like eerie, like atmospheric, like very like spooky stuff. I think like chapter 2 of this really stood out to me, and I wish there was like more of that like spooky chapter 2 stuff throughout the rest of the book. I will say that I was really invested in figuring out what was going on. Like once we got like the reveal and a little bit more information, I was really hooked to see if they put the pieces together. So in that sense, I did really enjoy the book. I guess I just was a little confused. Anyways, I don't think I will pick anything else up before I go to bed, but we'll see how I feel. I was looking back at the videos of today and my hair literally like progressed from like being down to being half up to being fully up, and is different in every single shot I took today. Anyways, I came on to tell you that I changed my mind. I was watching a Katie Coulson video and she was saying that The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn is one of her top books of the year, and this is a really short one. So I thought I would pick it up. Kindle, it tells you like your reading speed, and it tells me that I could read this one in less than an hour. So I think we're gonna do that right now. So I got to finish last night before I fell asleep The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn, and I realized that I never told you what it's about. So I'm gonna read the description just because it's so short that I feel like it's gonna be so easy for me to give away like plot points that maybe shouldn't be given away. Whatever. Okay, I'm gonna read it to you. It says, a canny young woman is struggling to survive by perpetuating various levels of mostly harmless fraud. On a rainy April morning, she's reading auras at Spiritual Palms when Susan Burke walks in. A keen observer of human behavior, our unnamed narrator immediately diagnoses beautiful, rich Susan as an unhappy woman eager to give her lovely life a drama injection. However, when the psychic visits the eerie Victorian home that has been the source of Susan's terror and grief, she realizes she may not have to pretend to believe in ghosts anymore. Miles, Susan's teenage stepson, doesn't help matters with his disturbing manner and grisly imagination. The three are soon locked in a chilling battle to discover where the evil truly lurks and what, if anything, can be done to escape it. Dun dun dun. It was so flipping good. Okay, I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm trying Storygraph this year, y'all. Love GoodReads, but it is very outdated. Storygraph is also a little bit confusing to me, but I don't know if it's because like I just started using it. But you can give half-star ratings on Storygraph. How satisfying is that? Oh no, I think I gave it 4.75. Either way, this was so freaking good. Like, oh my gosh. I couldn't give it 5 stars just because of like a specific like back and forth that I didn't really enjoy as part of the like resolution. But this thing had me hooked from the first line. The first line in this book is ridiculous. Like, redonkulous. Yeah, read it and weep. Just kidding, you're not gonna cry, but okay. So I'm gonna move on now to What Moves the Dead. All right, this is what it says, and I left my Kindle in the other room, but I will put the cover right here. It says, when Alex Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher's dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruravia. What they find there is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildfire surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. Yeah, basically, they have to unravel the secret of the House of Usher. Sounds right up my alley. And then if I enjoy this one, it has a 3.87 star rating on GoodReads, which is like pretty high up there. If I enjoy this, then I also have What Feasts at Night, which is book 2. So let's get to reading. Bye. I just got finished editing my first vloggy vlog of 2025. I can't wait to start off this year consistently posting. I'm just excited about that. Anyways, I got ready. I'm brewing a little bit of coffee. Oh my gosh, my whole house smells like coffee right now. we have this thing called the greca that I forget what it's called, maybe a kettle question mark in English, but that thing literally is magic. Like, I don't understand how it turns the coffee grounds into coffee. The wonders of the world. But as I've like edited, taken breaks, like made food, whatever, I've been reading What Moves the Dead, I think. How did I forget the name of the book I'm reading? I think I'm gonna switch to audio right now just while I get in the car. I have it on Libby on audio, so I think I'll probably finish the rest of the book on audio. It's doing its thing, y'all. I have to say, it's really doing its thing. I will, like, this is the first shorter book that I've read that actually takes its time to actually develop like the background, the lore, and the story. At first it was like going really slowly, and I was like, wow, this is gonna take up a large portion of the story. But then we were only like 45% through the book, and we've already moved on to kind of like the action and stuff. So I don't know if it was just like T. Kingfisher's like writing that makes it feel slower than what it actually is, but for the story it works because we need the backstory. Like, we need to know the like stuff with the mushrooms and the weird stuff that the animals are doing in the like neighborhood and stuff. So and then we just read this scene where he's like describing this girl's like weird like delusional like smile that she gets while she's like sleepwalking, and it gave me chills. I'm so glad I'm reading this in the daytime, because if I was reading this right before bed, I would have definitely had nightmares about that face. So we're gonna hope that I finish this and the second book. I'm definitely gonna be reading the second book. Hopefully the ending does not disappoint before it gets dark out, because we don't need nightmares here. Anyways, I am brewing coffee because I'm on a like no spending challenge for January, you know, trying to be financial girly, and I'm gonna go sit in a bookshop and read a bit, and then I have a little Bible study with the girlies, and so I'm just gonna try to avoid purchasing coffee while I'm at the bookshop, because that's definitely gonna be a temptation. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the books are gonna be a temptation as well. But I'm not gonna do it. Okay, February, we can buy any books that I see today that I liked. Hopefully. I have faith in myself that I can have some self-control. I'm so tired. I finished What Moves the Dead on my way home. I'm kind of sad because I, like I said, had plans to go to the bookshop and sit down and like be like cutesy or whatever. But I didn't get to do that because I went to go pick up some medications at the pharmacy on my way, and I got there and found out that my insurance had been terminated and did not renew on January 1st, and so I didn't have any coverage at all, like pharmacy, medical, vision, dental, like nothing. So I was kind of freaking out, and then on the phone with insurance trying to get that all sorted, it ended up being that they couldn't help me at all, and I had to like get to my employer. So that was very unfortunate and a very scary moment for me. But you know, if you're new here, I had a brain injury in January, so medical insurance is very important for me. Anyways, it's okay. Maybe tomorrow I'll have some time to do that. All I have on the schedule is going to the gym, so we'll see. But I was sitting here writing my journal. Look how perfect that is. I took a sticker of a hair and then just like X'd the eye as if it was unalived. and realized that I should probably tell y'all my final thoughts on this book. I am gonna give it 4 stars. I feel like she did such a good job with like the pacing of like setting up the story, the lore, how the main character came to be there, some of like the elements that were going to come into play later. She did a really good job of pacing that, whereas like it felt like she took her time to set up the story in the same way that you would with like a full-length novel, but it didn't take over the entire story, if that makes sense. Also, I think it's pretty hilarious that this main character like literally hates. I thought I heard someone. I'm home alone, so that's really spooky, but the main character hates Americans like so bad. And I just thought that was really funny. Like, he mentions it multiple times. But anyways, throughout the book, I did feel like later on towards the end, which is why it like kind of got bumped down to 4 stars. I lost my train of thought because I got so spooked out. Okay, I'm calm now. There's this one scene that's gonna live rent-free in my brain forever, where the girl who's like being like losing her mind, Madeline, I think her name is, she like does this like smile, like a creepy smile, and the way that she describes it will literally live rent-free in my brain forever. And this is why I was saying I can't read the other book right before bed. But then once we get the reveal, like, I wouldn't say that the reveal, it's not that it wasn't like shocking. It definitely wasn't like this huge like plot twist, like, oh my god, like what's going on. It's very much like, oh, okay, that makes total sense based on like what has been happening, which is fine, you know, that like it's fine that that was the feeling. It didn't feel like it was meant to be this huge like plot twist reveal. But once we got the answer of like, why is this all happening, it just took too long between we know the answer to we solved the problem, if that makes any sense. Like, it just like dragged a little bit, which thankfully this is not a full-length novel, because otherwise what else were we gonna get? You know? But besides that, that's really like the only like little qualm that I have about this book. Otherwise, it was really good. It was like really eerie, especially at the beginning. Yeah, this was fantastic. This was well written, and it's really making me want to read more T. Kingfisher. I read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and that one, oh my gosh, is it by this author? I hope so. That one didn't really hit. This one hit. So now I'm gonna have to read another book by this author to kind of like be the tiebreaker and see if I'm gonna like this author, you know. But not tonight, because as you can see, I'm already spooked and I'm not even reading a scary story. I'm gonna pick up Galatia by Madeline Miller, which I have loaded up on my Kindle. And I have no idea what this is about, but Madeline Miller writes about Greek mythology retellings. That's the only thing I've ever heard written by her. So let's see if this is also going to be about that. Oh yeah, okay. So Galatia and Pygmalion. This is the story of their myth. So in ancient Greece, a skilled marble sculptor is blessed by a goddess who gave his masterpiece the gift of life. So after he marries her, he expects Galatia to please him, to be obedient, and be like humility personified. But she has her own like kinds of desires, and she wants to be independent. So basically, Pygmalion, in a effort to like control her, he locks her up and puts her under constant supervision of like doctors and nurses, but she's not having it. And she is desperate to get out, especially because she has a kid on the outside. So, sounds interesting. Sounds like my vibe. Let's do this. Okay, this isn't the worst lighting and angle I've ever done. I just started reading What Feasts at Night, which is book 2 to What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Actually, this morning I finished Galatia. I got to the gym early for my appointment with my personal trainer, and I sat in the car and finished it. It was probably the quickest read of all the ones that I've read thus far. Just like the straightforward nature of the story. I ended up giving it 4 stars, maybe 4.25. Words. Do I have words for this story? I was kind of shocked because usually Madeline Miller doesn't use like such straightforward, like she's a little bit more flowery with her language, a little bit more poetic. In this one, it was just like the curse words that really like stood out. But it almost went with the character. So like the main character, who was the sculpture turned human, used those kind of words to describe her husband, who was like this very like firm, like intrusive man. So like having like those words like used to describe him, like it stood out, but like for a purpose, you know. You could tell the language was very intentional in that story. The ending was unexpected. But it was interesting. I liked all of like the ways that her being a statue manifested itself in her like being a human being. Yeah, I kind of wish I had more of that. It was good. Anyways, What Feast at Night by T. Kingfisher. I just started this book, and thus far it's like a little bit eerie, but not too much. There's still a little bit of like that tiny bit of humor. But I paused to talk to you guys because I realized that there's this like, I wouldn't say plot point per se, but like lore in like the first book, where in Galatia, this place where the main character's from, it's like a fictional town. They have 7 different possible pronouns for not only people based on their gender and occupation, but they also have a pronoun for God as well as for inanimate objects, which is really interesting. And so the main character, who is in the first book, is now the main character in the second book, Alex Easton, and his pronouns are za and zan, which are pronouns for anyone who joined the army. I don't know how to use a pronouns in like context of a sentence to like be able to use it, but basically like Alex was a man and then went into the army and now assumed za and zan pronouns. And it's kind of like a big point in the story. So in the first book, there is a woman who is just kind of like sick of being treated like a woman and purposely becomes a soldier to change her pronouns. And then now in this one, they're talking about getting like a housekeeper to come and help like in the cabin. So in the second story, basically what's going on is Alex Easton and Angus from the first book, they are doing a favor for Miss Potter, and so he has to go back to his cabin in Galatia, which he's like obsessed with and talks about a lot in the first book. And when he gets to his cabin, he found the like keeper that he pays and has been sending money home to is unalive, and something seems really like eerie and off about the cabin. I really like that he says like the silence, it feels thick. I don't know why that description is just like really like stuck with me, but anyway, so now he has to hire a new housekeeper, and Angus is talking about like we won't be able to hire a woman because it's not proper to have a woman in a house with two men. And Alex is like, well, I'm not a man. I don't know. I just find it like interesting how big of a role these pronouns play in the story. And I didn't talk about it in the first one, but now that I'm like getting into the second one, I'm like, oh, okay, this is like a big plot point for realsies. We'll see. I'm excited to find out what happens in this one because I was not expecting the first book's like resolution to be so logical. So like, how is this one gonna turn out, you know? Okay, baby, we're going to the big Barnes and Noble. Hark the herald angels sing. La, 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 la. I know Christmas is over, y'all, but there was a little Christmas section in Barnes & Noble, and there's this book called Hark the Herald Angels Scream. It's a horror book. Anyways, I couldn't take a lot of footage while I was at Barnes because there were like a gajillion people approximately in there. I could barely even get a seat. It was very unfortunate, but I did sit in there for like 2 hours, and I still did not finish my reading journal. Tears. But we won't be dramatic. I'm gonna go home and hopefully finish it at home after making some din din. What I did accomplish though was I finished What Feasts at Night by T. King Fisher. What to say about this book? I could not tell you what the resolution was. Like, it just eventually lost me. It was really interesting at first, especially because you were getting the lore of like the, oh god, I forget the name of the thing. Maybe I shouldn't say. I don't even feel like it's a spoiler though, because one of like the biggest thoughts that I was having about this book is that like there's no real like reveal, like plot twist type thing. Like you pretty much know immediately going into the books. This is true for the first book too. Like there's like rumors going around in the town about a certain thing that is like plaguing a certain person or like this house, neighborhood, etc. In the first book, it was the house and the ushers. And then the second book, it's the cabin and one of the guys that comes to work on the cabin. Anyways, I kind of noticed that that's like, now that I'm thinking about it, like kind of a trend for horror books. Like there's not really like this big reveal of like, wow, what is this thing that is like causing all of this? Also, I feel like this book was not as logical of an explanation as the first book, which was an interesting like take. Overall, I enjoyed the first one a lot more. In the second one, I think that the issue was that we were going into a lot of the stuff about like the different pronouns and the lore of like Galatia, which is where the main character's from and like where the story takes us. At one point, we completely, like, we meet this priest, and then the pronouns for priest are va and var. And I have a bit of a better understanding now. Like, va is for they, and then var is for their. We just completely switched to using the va var pronouns for the priest, and it almost just like took over the story. Like I could not focus on anything else other than like trying to pick up on and understand the grammar of it. And we get a lot more terms and phrases that like Galatians use. I think it's really interesting how she's able to build such a complex like culture, lore, and explanation in such a small book, and it doesn't feel like she's like info dumping on you. Like it's built in slowly throughout the story. T. Kingfisher definitely does a really good job of that. Yeah, the pronouns really like took over the whole book. It was pretty distracting, and also was like a choice too, because those pronouns are used in Galatian, like in their language, not in English. Like they don't exist in English. So it was a choice for sure. I don't know one that made sense, but a choice to end up like just switching immediately into those pronouns. Also, the pronouns for God are ha and har, which the main character does make a joke about how those are used in English to laugh. That was another interesting choice that like stood out to me. Overall, it was still a pretty interesting book. I was interested to hear the lore about the crouching thing that crouches on your chest in your dreams. But it wasn't as good as the first one. So we're gonna hit this one with 4 stars. And I'm not used to wearing hats, which is why I'm like touching my hair, my hat a lot. But we were just, this thing was happening, so we put a hat on. I don't know if I have another story in me. First of all of these have been pretty dark books for the most part. I thought about reading The Yellow Wallpaper, but I don't think I'm in the mood for that. And the other option that I have is this like book of ghost lore, ghost stories, Christmas ghost stories. But again, like I've just read like so many dark things in this vlog that I don't want to put myself in like a weird headspace, you know? So I tried to read the Christmas book. It's called The Scary Book of Christmas Lore by Tim Rayborn. But it's not that I wouldn't read this book. I just would want to read it like in a physical book as opposed to on my Kindle, which is what I do. I get the books on Libby on my phone and then I have them moved to my Kindle. Anyways, I don't know. I also just wasn't like in the mood for it either, but it does sound really interesting. So maybe this Christmas 2025. Anyways, I did end up pulling up the yellow wallpaper. I wasn't in the mood for it, but I was like, you know what? I'll just read it. Why not? Why not? Take a crazy chance. Why not? Why not? Okay, anyways, I wasn't in the mood for it. So again, it didn't have like my full attention. I would say that I would give this like 3 stars. It took me some like real like processing and like really thinking about what was going on to understand. The yellow wallpaper is basically a short story, I would say. I wouldn't even say it's a short book, even though they do publish it as a book. And um, basically, this woman is prescribed rest because she has a child, and then after giving birth she is struggling mentally, and so they bring her to this like remote house that they own in the country. And in those times, rest meant like you're not doing anything, you're in the room, like you're not reading, you're not writing, you're not mentally stimulating yourself, which obviously makes her turn into more of like a manic episode. And she starts to believe that she gets hyperfixated on this yellow wallpaper that's in the room. She starts to believe that there's like a woman caged in there, sometimes several women, and then eventually herself. And it's kind of like just her downward spiral. It's like 4 chapters, they're very short, and I haven't read this since, well, I think I might have read it when I did my master's, but I definitely read it when I was getting my associate's degree. But it's been a long time, and I don't know why I remembered it to be like different and more than what it was, but it was just very short. Can we take a moment though for my plant? Like, how pretty is this disco ball? Well, just in case I decide not to read anything, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you want to join the family, hit that subscribe button. And if you made it this far, leave me your spookiest emoji. I'll see y'all when I see you next. Bye.